Welcome to everyone and welcome to this virtual roundtable on circular fashion innovations. My name is Ruben Dubelaar. I represent Holland Circular Hotspot. And over the past years, we have been working together with the Dutch Consulate General in San Francisco and the Dutch Ministry for the Environment to develop a collaboration on circular economy between Holland and California. And we do so already in the field of circular urban development, but also fashion has been on our radar for quite a long time. And we all love fashion, especially the group that we have here today. Everyone is, of course, crazy about fashion, but we all know it's also a big challenge to make the textile industry more sustainable. And it's not a local challenge, it's a worldwide challenge because production and customers are all over the world. And today we hope to take a next step by sharing some of our best practices from California and from the Netherlands, but also by having an open discussion on how we can collaborate on this topic and how we can take action. And it's great to see how this is supported and facilitated by both public and private parties. From the Dutch side, the Dutch Ministry for the Environment, and from California, CalRecycle. And in today's session, we have experts from companies that are frontrunners on circular textiles. So I'm really looking forward to hear their views and on how to scale up circularity and what they think is needed to close the loop in the textile value chain. I'm also kind of the designated timekeeper, so we've foreseen about 75 minutes in total for the session until 8:15 California time and 6:15 Dutch time. And if you have any questions, please use the chat box or raise your hands, but we're not that big a group. And we'll start with some introductions from the Dutch Consulate in San Francisco and Dutch Ministry for the Environment, followed by 5 introductions that show some of the best practices, both from the US and the Dutch side. But first, I would like to give the floor to Vincent Storymans, who is the Deputy Consul General of the Dutch Consulate in San Francisco. Vincent, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ruben, and good morning to all participants from the San Francisco Bay Area. This is actually an image we see from our window here at the consulate. Unfortunately, there's no bay to be seen given the fog, which is quite common for this town, but people who've been here, they know. But still a very warm and heartfelt welcome from the Netherlands Consulate in San Francisco. This is really very exciting to be together with you and to have this open discussion, this open and intimate discussion on circular fashion. That is a subject very close to our hearts. Many of you might know that in December of last year, we organized a roundtable on the circular economy, and that was also attended by Eleni Kounalakis, the Lieutenant Governor of the state of California, and our Minister for the Environment, Stientje van Veldhoven. And in a way, this is a follow-up to that discussion, and we're very happy to be able to go in depth and discuss this very important subject. So many of you might be familiar with the fact that the Netherlands aims to be a fully circular economy by 2050. And that's a very lofty and ambitious goal. And we all know that we need to really step up and make that happen. And we also know that the fashion industry is an important player in that regard. So that's why our team here at the consulate, together with the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management in the Netherlands, decided to organize this roundtable. Well, this is an exciting moment for us. We're also very happy to be collaborating with CalEPA, the Californian Environmental Protection Agency, and we're delighted this morning to be joined by the Deputy Secretary, Caroline Godkin, and the staff lead for the textile industry, which is Kate Wilkins. Well, good morning to you and welcome. And we're also thrilled to be collaborating with your colleague, the lead for the CalRecycle part of CalEPA, which is Rachel Wagoner. Rachel, good morning to you and thank you for joining us. So many important topics will be discussed here this morning. We will be going into the supply chain. We'll be talking about adding recyclables into that supply chain, but I would like to call upon you to make this exchange as actionable as possible, because the Dutch, as you know, are very practical, they're very direct, and so we can talk about policy and about our lofty goals, but we need to achieve those lofty goals by joining forces and working together. So I call upon all participants to to make that work, to make sure that this exchange leads to practical collaboration between the Netherlands and the US, more in particular California. So I'm grateful for you for your presence this early hour or this later hour in the Netherlands. And but with that, I would like to give back to you, Ruben, and I would like to wish you all a very fruitful exchange. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Vincent, for the introduction, and also great and to state that we really would like to make it actionable. Great to hear. I know that the consulate always is focused on that. But first, let's move over to the next speaker, Arnoud Passenier. He's Strategic International Advisor, Circular Economy for the Dutch Ministry for the Environment. Arnoud, over to you. Arnoud, you're still muted.
Yes, sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Ruben and Vincent, for the kind words. It's also from the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management, the Environmental Directorate. Very nice to reach out to our colleague, Californian friends on the public and private side to look for ways to collaborate on this topic of circular economy, circular fashion, which is still, although we are front runners in the world, still a topic we have to explore much more in depth and see opportunities to work together to make it happen. 2050 seems very a long way, but at the same time, if we want to be halfway in 2030 or 2035, we have to do a lot. To start with, it's not only because we wanted to make it happen in the Netherlands. We know that the economy in the world is interlinked very much worldwide. So if we want to have a circular economy in the Netherlands, we should have a circular economy worldwide. So it's not only our ambition, I think it's a worldwide ambition to do that. But let's start with circular textiles, and especially also what I will present is our policies. So first, what we envisage is closing the loop of textiles, and it's not only about recycling of textiles into new products. That will be maybe the easiest part of the work. Now, what we envisage is a smart, clean, efficient, respectful, transparent use of natural resources. So no waste, but also no wastage. And we know all that in the fashion industry, a lot is wasted without use, a practical use of customers. And at the same time, we want also to have a good design, also in such a way that the products, the clothing is designed, but also used to be used for a long time and intensive. I think that will be the future of fashion and textiles. So in the end, it's also about reuse and recycling, but first we should work on durability and longevity of those products. And of course, it's not only a responsibility of consumers, it's also brand owners and retailers have a responsibility, but have also the ability to work along the supply chain, the value chain, to create a better circular industry, integrated with social and environmental aspects. I think that the industry has a big role to play but at the same time, they couldn't do it without the support and active attitude of governments worldwide. And therefore, I'm glad to work together with the industry to make it happen. So why are we have in the Netherlands produced a policy paper on circular textiles as one of the priority sectors in our circular economy program and policies, because textiles is a real it has an enormous effect on the environment. If you look to this sheet, only for denim, it costs about 8,000 liter water per jeans to produce one pair of jeans. And if you know that a lot of the industries producing the textiles, they will face a lot of water stress in the future decades because of the climate change. And if you see that at the same time, at the right upper side of this infographic, you see that only 63% of the jeans production is really being sold. So we waste a lot of good valuable materials at the same time. So what we did is having a broad program, an integrated program, launched and presented to our parliament last year with ambitious targets. And some people say, well, they are not ambitious enough, but let's start and see how far we come. But with elements that's not only about recycling, it's also about design for circularity, to be able to reuse and recycle, but also to incentivize the market to focus more on quality. That is something different from our traditional waste policies. Quality in use and reuse and recycling is essential, I think, to close the loop. And therefore we have and are developing an EPR scheme on textiles. We use our government instruments like circular procurement to help the new industries to recycle, but also to use recycled contents for new clothing. And of course, we look at sustainability labels also together with the European Commission.
No,
but
I ask you to keep an eye on the time.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot to do, and of course the government can play a big role, but at the same time also the companies have to invest in the whole value chain, and the demand pool by asking for recycled fibers will help the recycling industry to develop. So in the end, we will work together for new defaults and new standards. What I want to stress is, and that's my final slide, is that it's essential to work together on innovations, but also to scale it up in a public-private partnership. Without each other, we are not able to accelerate that process. So that's something we should discuss this afternoon or this morning. And the government has a crucial role as a partner, and not as a regulator, but as a real partner, connecting, challenging, supporting, and of course sometimes framework setting. But the connecting role of government is often underestimated. And the third thing is that collectively we can steer in the whole value chain to make other standards. And with that, I think the whole system can change very rapidly. And I hope that the denim deal, and I think Nicolas will talk more about that, it can be an inspiring example of all those elements coming back in that deal, and how we develop that in the next 3 years. But at the same time, we should do the same worldwide, and let's start in the collaboration between the Netherlands and California. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arnoud. We'll directly go over to the first block, and which actually it's great to see some best practices from the US. And we'll start with Andrea de Vitis of La La Land. So Andrea, the floor is yours. We're very eager to see your presentation.
Hello. Thank you to everybody to have me here. So it's a big challenge to make fashion industry sustainable nowadays, and this is what we're working all together. So a little presentation of La La Land. La La Land is the biggest facility for producing handbags and shoes in the United States. And we work as main client for Louis Vuitton. I'm Italian and I moved in the United States 3 years ago. I used to live a couple of years in New York, and then I met, fortunately, Alexander Zard, this is the owner of La La Land, and we were both on the same level thinking about sustainability and the plan how to make work, the fashion, be more careful to the environment. So the first thing we discussed is to make the fashion to be global to local. In the meaning, taking example for Louis Vuitton has a huge production made in USA. That's help a lot about carbon foot and about consumption. The second step we did with La La Land is to work with big group like Gucci and Louis Vuitton, coming and helping them in recycling and reuse. So we're doing repair of second-hand handbags and shoes for them, re-putting on the market. So making sensitive the big industry to reuse the second-hand. Thanks to God, nowadays the luxury group are really more careful about that. In fact, the Levmash group opened our platform. This is a blockchain platform in collaboration with Prada, in collaboration with Richmond Group and Cartier, to work about traceability, work about where they buy the first material, how much time is spent, how much water is consuming, and all of this will be information that will be tagged from 2021 in the new bags of Louis Vuitton, and through an app on the smartphone, the final consumer can understand all the process and all the effort for sustainability. Also, we collaborate with the Louis Vuitton group in the meaning there are a lot of new designers that we try to make sensitive to approach the fashion industry in the right way. So instead to buy new fabric, it's now created in Europe a new platform that is named Nona Source, where the Levmash group put all the waste of the fabric they did not use at 70% of discount, so the new designer can have access to that instead to try to buy new fabric. And this is about recycling, and we're trying to make sensitive the designer about that. As well, we're trying to make sensitive them about the dead stock of leather, because when you produce a leather, there are a lot of dead stock and still the leather is durable. So it's better to reuse the leather already made it than to make new one. As well, we're making them sensitive about the vegan alternative to use mushroom and cactus leather to produce their shoes. In our facility, what we're trying to do is also to use less solvent and to use more water glue, for example. So this will help the environment. Of course, water glue, it doesn't use a lot of water because we have to be careful also to don't waste too much water, but it's better to use the chemical it's difficult to be recycled. So this is all we're doing, and every day is a working process for us to try to make the industry more sustainable, more sensitive to recycle, and we hope we can give us contribution as well as a hub for designers, since I was born professionally as designer and having experience in luxury, have worked in the past from Prada to Celine and Gucci, and as well as producer, helping in all the process the new designer and established designer to understand that we have to be careful to our environment from now for our future.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for this, and congratulations on taking such leadership on circularity and the new use of materials. Please stay with us. We'll be right back also for the interactive discussion. And let's move over to our next speaker, Alice Hartley. She's Director Product Sustainability at Gap. Alice, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Very nice to be with you. My colleague Blair Reineman is here as well from our government affairs team. And so I'd like to just talk a little bit about our strategy on circularity, and I'll give a bit of hopefully insight on what has worked for us when it comes to the use of recycled fibers, as a sort of one example of what we are trying to do on a larger scale. So I have just a couple of slides that I can show. So just to start out, I think everyone is aware of our Gap brand, but just for those who aren't in the US, you may not know of some of our smaller brands. Athleta is a activewear brand started in California and acquired by Gap. And then Banana Republic, Old Navy, and of course Gap. So we are a portfolio company, and we always try to use the strength of our different brands and just the overall scale that we can generate when we start to head in a given direction. So it's fitting that we're talking about recycled cotton. Actually, is one of the examples I wanted to walk through. Amsterdam is not only a hub of innovation on circular economy, it's also host to the Kingpin's Denim Show, which is really important for our strong denim brands, so Gap, Old Navy, Banana Republic. And it was at that show about 3 years ago, so it would have been 2018, that we really kicked off a major effort in our use of recycled cotton. And what that looked like was gathering together 4 of our major denim mills who were all at the show. And it was really a chance to sit down with key strategic partners and say, we'd like to start going after recycled fibers in a bigger way. Can you help us? Can you go on this journey with us? And that was a really key moment because it has taken a lot of just cross-functional within our company, and then also collaboration across our supply chain, because there were hurdles that we encountered along the way. There were concerns about the strength and the quality of using recycled cotton in such an iconic product as our denim. We had to be really careful. We have pretty exacting standards when it comes to quality for our denim, and the last thing we wanted to do was compromise on quality. So to go on that journey and using more recycled fibers, we had to get down into the details of doing extra testing of the fiber, extra testing of the yarn, extra testing of the fabric to satisfy ourselves that this was going to hold up to our quality and durability standards. So from there, you can see the lighter line, the darker line is our growth of recycled cotton since then. So it grew from 26,000 kilos in that first year to most recently now using 1.6 million kilos of recycled cotton. So pretty strong growth from there. And then recycled poly has even grown by greater amounts. So up to 5.9 million kilos on an annual basis. And what I would say about that is our strategy has been to start incrementally. And I think that's maybe a distinction of how we've gone after recycled fibers. we know we have strength as a large company if we can start to adopt these more sustainable options. But we have to do it at scale. And that has not looked like jumping in and trying to make a 100% recycled garment off the bat. It has looked more like setting ourselves a target to see if can we get 5 to 10% recycled cotton into some of our biggest products. So that incremental amount, but starting to get traction and satisfying everybody that it was going to work and work with at our cost requirements and at our quality requirements. That has been in our experience what's actually worked to gain traction and get everybody comfortable with using these different fibers. And then the growth kind of has taken off from there. It's become the default in how we make denim, and on the poly side, it's become just kind of a normal way of doing business for some of our key product areas. So I think that's been a learning for us, is that if we really want to go after this growth at scale, it's okay to start at an incremental way. And then just there's so many moving parts in the development of a product that it takes some time to just enable that more organic growth. But then to talk a little bit about the challenges. So what we've been seeing, I'll take this off for a sec. What we've been seeing is that.
Also, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but maybe try to keep maybe 1 more minute, something like that. We have
sure.
quite more presentations. Yeah.
No problem. Yeah, I just wanted to speak a little bit about challenges too. So we've done what we can, I think, working within our own supply chain and with our partners. And what we've come to realize is it really takes a bigger ecosystem than that to generate real change at scale. So what we're seeing is the need for more a collaboration that goes outside of just our own company and our supply chain. So we've gotten involved with, for example, the Accelerating Circularity Project, focused here in the US on gathering like-minded brands, but then also their supply chain partners, and trying to grow the ecosystem for the circular economy, just focused on the US. And then building on that, we've been engaged in some very interesting conversations so far with a few folks on the phone today from CalRecycle, and then looking at how might we do something similar, just focused on California. We're a California-based brand, and very proud to be in one of the more progressive pockets of the US. And so the challenge there is what sort of connections can we make from joining together private interests, but also the public sector, nonprofit partners and philanthropic partners as well, around this common goal of jumpstarting this ecosystem for more circular fashion.
Great, thanks a lot for the introduction, and we'll get back to you. And let's move over to the second block with some presentations from the Dutch or /EU side. I would like to request to all maybe keep to 5 minute max, because we want to have some time for an interactive discussion as well. Let's first start with Douwe on Joustra. And Douwe is independent advisor on implementation of circular economy and former head of circular fashion at the CNA Foundation. Douwe, over to you.
Thank you, Ruben. And thank you for giving me the chance to say a couple of words on what we would call the transition from linear to circular economy in the textiles domain. Here in the Netherlands, we have quite a lot of initiatives going on. Initiatives that are really Dutch, but also some real international initiatives like Fashion for Good. I hope that you all know of it, and if not, please have a look at it. Fashion for Good is an innovation hub, one could say, worldwide, in which innovations are brought together, analyzed, and there is a group of companies, and if your company is not yet part of it, do it, that gets the challenges that are connected to these innovations. That's what we host here in Amsterdam, and that's great because because the knowledge is close by. But there is a lot of knowledge in the Netherlands. Last week, there has been a report published by the Dutch Agricultural University of Wageningen on feedstock in the textiles industry, on spinning future threats. I will put a link later on in the chat, which says that there is an enormous resource in agricultural waste, and maybe even green waste of cities, which is an enormous good source for yarns. These kind of initiatives are going on and on, but we have organized it quite strongly now. In the Netherlands, we have the Dutch Circular Textiles Valley. That is a transition organization, a group of organizations working together with the industry, with governments, also local partners, with companies in the recycling, but also in the retail and the making of textiles, bringing them together because we think that creating new connections is key to create a good, let's call it an ecosystem of circular fashion and circular textiles. Now, if you look at that, one can say that change in the textiles domain goes very slow. And we see quite some social enterprises starting in this domain and also starting from a circular perspective with new business models like Lena, the clothing library. A couple of girls here in Amsterdam who started a clothing library and now have a group of about 1,000 users that come into the library to exchange clothes, which is a brilliant initiative. But it's a social enterprise and it needs an enormous scaling up. And what we see as important is that we understand the knowledge that they are building on the way they are working. They have an enormous database on how people's questions are, needs and hidden needs are developing, how the materials, the products are responding to this way of handling. And that would be very interesting also for the bigger retailers in the city to see how they can change their business model. And change of business models is what we are looking for. Of course, there are many technical innovations going on new materials, on new resources, etc. But key in circular economy is finding the new business models. How can we keep responsibility with the professionals instead of selling not only the product, but also selling responsibility? And we need to work together to see how, well, the conditions for growth can be created together with governments, together with the companies, together with all the interested parties that are connected to this ecosystem. And ecosystems need good conditions for growth. And that's where I would stop.
Thanks. Thanks a lot for the introduction, Douwe. We'll get right back to you after all the introductions. Great to hear. And I think also our next speaker, Peter Rijken, shareholder of Textiles to Textiles, also very involved in the Dutch, let's say, circular initiatives around textiles. So Peter, the floor is yours. Peter, are you with us? Maybe you're still on mute. Peter Rijken, sorry. Maybe in Dutch it works. Can you take over for a quick introduction?
Yeah, I think it's okay now. Thank you.
Now it's okay. We hear you. Yeah.
Okay, I take over the screen. Hello to everyone.
Yeah.
And let me just. Okay, so my name is Peter Rijken. I'm co-shareholder of Textiles to Textiles, together with Hans Bon, probably known from Bilan Textiles. We created this company, and the aim for this company, this factory, is that we will reuse every garment and fiber from post-consumer waste, and we transform it into rewearable material and non-rewearable materials for the textile industry. The output of this factory that we have designed and built is that we produce post-consumer clippings of 60 by 60 millimeters, sorted by color, sorted by material structure, and by material content. So, for instance, cotton, white, and woven is what we have as an output on clippings of 60 by 60 millimeters. And we supply these clippings to the processors. So we have a pre-processing factory, and the material output we deliver to companies like fiberizing companies, or in the future chemical recycling companies that will create the fibers out of the clippings that we supply. So we have a completely clean, sorted, homogeneous product, and priced up to the level of virgin materials, so we can really act into the mainstream. And the fiber farm, as we call it, this factory, this concept that we have invested in, will be finished, completed by about September, October this year. That's the pilot plant in Wormerveer. And we will then bring this concept, and I will skip very quickly. The aim is to bring this concept, roll it out all over the world. So we're proud to be part of the Dutch movement to really export the know-how that we have by this fiber farm factory. And the layout of the factory is that we really standardize it. So we innovate and replicate by standardization. And the standardization of this concept is a small to mid-scale level. So you really can apply it in urban environments. We need about 15 million kilos as input feedstock from post-consumer waste, let's say the wardrobe, and we convert it in the factory to about 3 to 4 million material, and the rest is rewearable. So we strive for not having to throw away any material at all. The total investment we have is about 3.5 million euros per fiber farm factory. We need about 9 months to erect, and it's about 7.5 thousand square meters. So you see, we are very exact in what we are putting to table. So the fiber farm factory is really standardized, and we really need that to get it all over the world as a concept. And the model that we will apply is in 3 types. We can apply the fiber farm factory on our own profit and loss. We can run this fiber farm factory for you as a managed operation, where you invest in the company. That's what we tell our partners. Or we can provide a license of the operation to the brands or to the processors to run this fiber farm factory. So that's what we are doing right now, and the pilot will start running in operation by about the 1st of November this year in Wormerveer, just near Amsterdam.
Yeah, thanks, Peter, and thanks for the introduction. And I think it's a very important step in closing the loop, what you guys are doing. So thank you very much. Stay with us. We'll be right back for the interactive part. And then we would like to move over to our last presenter, but not, let's say, one of the front runners in textiles in Europe. That's Nicolas Prophte, who's working for PVH, and we're very curious also to see your introduction and what you can tell us on the use of recycled fibers. Nicolas, yeah. Over to you.
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you, Ruben. Hi, everybody. Thank you to invite me. I think it's very interesting to engage.
Sorry, before you start, because I still see the screen of Peter. Peter, maybe you can close your screen. Yes, there we are.
Yes.
Nicolas, all yours. Yep.
So I'm the French guy based in Amsterdam, working for Tommy Hilfiger Europe. So a company named PVH. I'm responsible for the whole denim business in terms of, and my team, product development, sourcing, production, supply chain, but also I'm extremely engaged in sustainability strategy and innovation. Yeah. So let's go to the best practice. So let's go to jump to the next slide, please, because I don't click the button. If you could go for the next one. Yeah, so to rephrase a little bit, so Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein are the two major brands of PVH. We have, of course, corporate responsibility strategy or sustainability strategy, all the groups. And we try to create also synergies between all of them. And the main focus for us is social impact we have in our supply chain and obviously environmental impact. But I would like to jump directly to few practical what we engage the last few years. So yeah, so if you could talk about circularity, we engage few at scale, few use of recycling materials. On the left side of the screen, the use of post-consumer recycled cotton fiber in our jeans, in our fabrics, become a standard the last 2 years. We started 2 years ago. So we want to use with our denim mills 20% minimum of this fiber in our fabric. We consider that the best sustainable cotton is the one has never been produced and reused. So that's the first initiative. The second one you have in the middle of the screen, it's more the groundbreaking innovation that we had 2 years ago about the 100% recycled cotton fiber fabric that we engaged in spring 19. And until now, since 2 years, we developed this family of fabric. It's very narrow, very difficult to make, but we covered and we bought more than 1 million meters. So it's also something important. The third one on the right, I think is linked to the use of post-consumer recycled cotton. We joined the Dunning deal a few weeks ago with Arnoud Passenier, really to how we can engage locally with all the local brands. I think as a big brand like us, I think we have a role model to play and also to give access to the smaller brands or the medium brands to show the direction, but also to engage with the scale. And yeah, it's all about this cross collaboration between public and private collaboration, different stakeholders in the value supply chain. And it's really to promote, to engage the use of post-consumer recycled cotton in the fabrics. And I call it, it's how we can initiate a reverse value chain or a reverse supply chain. Next slide, please. So this is, we talk about scale, and I think Alice from Gap mentioned it. We want to scale any circularity. And so I'm sharing numbers with you guys. I have no problem, but if you see the first line, this is the percentage of use of post-consumer recycled cotton. We have 20% in our annual production in Europe. So we are already at 66, 70%. So in 2 years, the stress or the stimulation we put on our spinning house or mills has been extremely responsive. And there is no secret, but I think we need to use the business case to foster all this investment at recyclers, at spinning, to leverage and to scale more and more. So this is, it shows you as we showed before, that scale it's possible if you focus on one metric. I'm not going to disclose the other metrics, but I think the POCI, it's a good example that we scale it and we want to continue for our ambition 2025 to have minimum 75%. And we do more or less annually 7 million pair of jeans. So it's already few million tons of fiber. Another slide, please. Another example. Yes, so what we saw before, it was fiber. Here it's more on product. So we joined the Ellen MacArthur Foundation Jeans Redesign Project in spring 21, so it was 2 years ago. Try to how we can engage circularity or circular design in denim. So it's really to how to educate our supply chain, but mainly our designers, to make sure we focus on durability, we focus on recyclability with monomaterial, but also special branding, special trims, to make sure that the end life of the product is going to be extremely efficient and productive in terms of recycling. And of course, the third element of the guidelines are, let's use some friendly or recycle or low impact fabrics or finishes for all the different materials. So there is another round, spring 22. So it's the guidelines 2.0, an evolution of the guidelines that we are brainstorming with the foundation, try to make it more relevant for the supply chain, but also try to open step by step widely the scope and the commerciality so we can scale it up. So that's a good example, but I think we will discuss a little bit why the foundation. And I think another slide. Yeah, for me, what's next? It's how we can scale. And I think it's one of the topics we'd like also to discuss after, innovation to maximize impact, because yes, size, big companies like us as a role model, we have a responsibility to partnership. So I think the key challenges for us, it's this sourcing and supply chain or reverse supply chain, how we can secure the feedstock. Feedstock is going to be extremely strategic, but it's also linked to sorting, collecting, and process it. Capacities, how we can accelerate the technical development in terms of recycling process, mechanical or chemical. Engagement, we have to raise awareness internally in the supply chain, but also, I think we discussed before, how we can engage responsibility and educate the consumer. And I'm obsessed with traceability and transparency in this reverse supply chain. I think globally, we all agree that we need more visibility on what's going on. But when we are going to talk about circularity and the origin of the feedstock, it's also something that we need to discuss and engage. I think that's it for my presentation.